Okay, we're starting. Welcome to Crash Course Barstow Edition. Today we're going to be learning about the Mughal. We're learning about the Mughal Empire today. Can I please get something to eat first? Okay, roll the intro. So the first thing you need to know about the Mughal Empire is it was a Muslim-controlled empire in India who had a Hindu majority. To understand how Muslims ended up controlling India, we have to start with where the first Muslims arrived in India. During the 8th century, Muslims began slowly moving to India, but not in any great amounts, but at least noticeable. In the 10th century, Muslim rulers in current-day Afghanistan attempted to conquer Punjab 11 times. 11 times. Maybe you could say 3 times, or like third time's a charm, but 11 times? Dude, really? And in the 12th century, a Muslim invasion led to the formation of the Delhi Sultanate. So, the Mughal Empire began in the early 16th century and lasted to the early 18th century, a good 200 years. So the first Mughal Empire was Babur I, who was the king of Fargana at the age of 12. In Turkestan, he was a direct descendant of Genghis Khan and Tamerlan, the Turco-Mongol conqueror. Because, of course, the Mongols changed the entire system of empires, which in turn gave the space for the Mughal Empire to rise. Babur I overthrew the Delhi Sultanate in 1526 and began rule in northern India. During his reign and that of his predecessors, the empire expanded to almost all of India. The early empire advocated religious tolerance and became a syncretic society, joining Muslim and Hindu cultures together, with temples and celebrations of different cultures, such as forbidding killing of the cow in the Hindu culture. Was Humayun, who wasn't the greatest leader, but his son Abu Akbar was very important to the growth of the Mughal Empire. He ruled from 1556 to 1605. He was a great leader and focused most of his reign on expansion. Under his reign, he expanded the Mughal Empire from northern India to central and western India. The key to expansion was his administration, taxation, and political view. His administration was very efficient at keeping records of the people and the most important, taxes. The taxation system gained money from all people in the Mughal Empire and gave the military the ability to grow and stay strong. Through his reforms of administration and taxation, Akbar created a sound and enduring foundation for Mughal governance, while his tolerant attitude and inclusive policies toward Hindus and Jains helped create a state that was more Indian to character, end quote. Which brings us to the most interesting part of Akbar's rule, his tolerant attitude. He was much more tolerant than his father and rescinded the tax on non-Muslims and gave the same rights to all non-Muslims, which allowed the empire to stay stable for a much longer time, considering the huge majority of Hindu people in their empire at the time. At the same time of how great Akbar was, his administration was extremely strict and used extreme violence to keep the populace in line. And when he conquered new regions, he piled up thousands of inhabitants outside of kingdoms and piled up the skulls of princes to show the power of the Mughal Empire. Wow, that went dark quick. Akbar's son Jahangir. He adopted a diverse court and readopted Islam as a state religion, but continued to promote religious tolerance and began building monuments and gardens. He worked hard to increase Urdu influence of the Mughal language and the Hindu grammatical structure. His son, Jahan, ruled from 1592 to 1666. He's known for building the Taj Mahal. Yeah, that thing, that cone at the top, and it looks pretty cool in pictures, but you always forgot where it actually was. So the Taj Mahal is one of the greatest architectural achievements in the world. The money to build the Taj Mahal created huge debts in the empire, which caused the empire to raise taxes, and of course, no one wants to pay higher taxes, so of course that caused a recipe for revolts. Now we get to the last one of the most important Mughal emperors, Jahan's son Aurangzeb Beg. While he was, how do we put this? Determined. You see, to become emperor, he imprisoned his father and killed his older brother. That might be a step too far. And from here we get two sides of the story, one from Islam perspective and one from Hindu perspective. He ended the pattern of religious tolerance and reimposed the harsh Orthodox Muslim laws. He destroyed Hindu temples and he reinstated the non-Muslim tax. He then conquered the southern portion of India and took the inhabitants as slaves. Because he expanded the empire so broadly, this caused a lot of administrative problems because he didn't have the power to look over the entire empire. His religious intolerance, the expansion of the empires, taxes, and violent laws created the common recipe for revolts. First, a Muslim governor in southern India established his own independent Shia state and brought back a religious toleration. And we can't forget the freaking Europeans, as they were coming to the spice trade at this time. Specifically, the English and French helped fund and support the revolts against the Mughal Empire and also caused later Mughal empires to become puppets of the French and British. This integration from England later helped them to take complete control over India, but that's for another crash course. This entire crash course, we've been primarily talking about the Muslim perspective, where the Muslims imagine themselves to be descended from a superior ruling race. The Hindu populace was trampled and stepped on through the huge portion of the Mughal Empire. Quote, we generally learn that they are a syncretic temperate, and their historical tendency is to completely assimilate socially and spiritually with the non-Muslims. We are told that the Muslim-ruled imperial states that existed in India before the establishment of British rule were in no manner specifically inclined to favor the Islamic faith. End quote. The Hindu and Muslim cultures become very intermixed and connected at this time, but the Muslim remained on top because they ruled the Hindu majority for 200 years, not to mention the Delhi Sultanate before them, who were also Muslim. So that's all for today's crash course. Today we learned about the Mughal Empire and how Babur I created the Mughal Empire by conquering the Delhi Sultanate and advocated for religious tolerance. His grandson Akbar then expanded the empire to west of India and believed all religions to be equal. And his son Jahangir built the Taj Mahal, the important structure that still stands 400 years later. The last strong emperor, Aurangzeb expanded the empire to almost all of India, but destroyed the religious tolerance in the country, which eventually brought the empire to its doom, and the French and English began to move and control the India. Researcher Phoebe Brasner, lead writer and host myself, our lead graphic and producer Caleb Chang, and our set designer and publicist Mia Sabapathy. This crash course is brought to you by Nature Valley. Add protein to your day.